Amber, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing good. Thank you for coming to my show.
Yes.
Uh, hey, I had a conversation with Trevor last weekend, and he shared a little bit about his testimony.
Mhm.
He shared a bit of his testimony, and I was kind of like, as I was editing his sound, I was coming up with some questions,
Yeah.
and I was like, I messaged Trevor, and I was like, I was kind of thinking about your wife. And I was like, I think I want to have her on my show, because I want to ask her some questions.
I heard you guys talking the other day, and he kept mentioning my name, but he didn't say anything for a long time. And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
That's how my wife is. She listens to me, and then she wants to know, and I was like,
Yeah.
if you want to know, listen to my show. Um, I'm gonna ask you some questions. It's
Okay.
gonna be about three questions, and hopefully, out of those three questions, I can come up with some more questions.
Okay, that sounds good.
Uh, I do have one big job for you, since you're the only female that I am going to interview, and you have more experience on marriage than my other female friends that I interview. They've only been married no more than 5 years, I would say.
Okay.
So, here we go. Question number one.
Okay.
Tell me, how did you meet your spouse?
I met Trevor. The end of my senior year, we both worked at Sonic, where I had worked at Sonic for a while longer than he had. I actually knew his cousins, and my older sister was actually friends with his cousins. And then he moved down here from California and started working there. And so we met very briefly. Um, and then I took my senior trip and I was gone for a while. And so we had met each other, but then didn't talk or anything for a little bit. And so he thought I had stopped working there and just was like, oh man, that sucks. But but we actually met at Sonic. So we worked together.
Wait, did you get his number before he left, or did
No,
you decide he left?
no. And I'm not that kind of person. So our story is actually kind of weird, but
Yeah, that's I think, you know, I would have been like, hey, give me that guy's number or something.
no, I was kind of talking to somebody else, I guess, at the time. And so I wasn't really looking for that. And
Dang.
then um, I broke up with that other person, I guess. And then we took break together. I didn't ever take breaks, so we took break together. And then his girlfriend at the time found out and got really, really angry because he had told me that he liked me when we were on break. But I told him that I wouldn't do anything because he had a girlfriend, and and he said that he couldn't break up with her because she hadn't done anything wrong. And so then she got really mad and she came up there and she like flipped him off through the window and different things like that. So that ended their relationship and then we started hanging out. So
She was one of those, huh?
yeah.
I've encountered a few. So, what drew you to your spouse and made you realize that he was the one for you?
Oh man. I don't know. Uh I think at the very beginning it was just immaturity anyway, just wanting to be with somebody. I thought he was cute and um so I think that's how it all started, but then we went through some really hard times. He had his accident and different things like that. And so we went through a lot of those things. And I think all of those things and seeing him walk through those things and us walking through those things together really just kind of makes you realize that, you're kind of in it together for the long haul. And so that's really, I think, where a lot of it came from is, we had just walked through so much together that, I mean, I I couldn't picture my life any different or choosing somebody different than him. He has a great personality. He's hilarious most of the time. He thinks he is anyway. And
Sarcastic.
he's very sarcastic. That is very true. He is very sarcastic, and nobody ever knows if he's serious or if he's joking.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that's what everybody said. We don't know if he's being serious or not. Me either. I don't know. He might be.
Yeah, I know. Before Trevor, I'm glad you mentioned Trevor's accident.
Yeah.
Before his accident, how long have you and him were dating for?
We were together for 2.5 years before his accident.
At that time of the accident, how did you feel and what were you doing at the time?
So I actually was at home. It was one day that I actually didn't work, and but at that time I was working, and then I was doing a paper route as well. So I was working a whole bunch, and so was he. He was helping me with the paper route, and then he worked at Taco Bell in Ada, which was about a 30 to 45-minute drive from where we actually were living. And so when I got a call from his uncle, I almost said his name, but I probably shouldn't say his name. Anyway, I got a call from his uncle, and so
Uh-huh.
I knew that something was wrong because they didn't call me. That wasn't somebody that would call me, and so immediately I was with my little sister, and I got up that call. I answered the call, and I was like, okay, I have to go. And just like, and she was like, what's going on? And so I tried to explain as best as I could, and she was like, you can't go anywhere, you can't drive anywhere. And so she helped me to get to where I needed to go. um and then, I called my parents and everything like that, which they had taken him to the hospital in the town that we lived in, and so
Mhm.
we could just meet them there, but then he had to be taken to the city. So then we just followed him up there. But so I actually was not doing anything. I was at home for the first time in a while, not working. So it was
Yeah.
just kind of ironic, I guess.
But you went to the hospital eventually, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
as after we got that call, my little sister, we got with my parents, and then we went immediately to the hospital. And it just so happened that the guy that took care of him, because the hospital there's not a great hospital. It's known for not being a great hospital, or at least at that time. I don't know anymore because I haven't lived there in a long time. But and so luckily at that time there was a doctor that had just studied traumatic brain injuries, and so he knew exactly what to do to be able to like put him under and sedate him and everything like that, so that his body would stop like seizing and things like that. So luckily, when I say luckily, it was really just God's hand, having that particular doctor there, and having that training had just happened. And so we got there, we got to see him and everything like that, and then everything happened so fast, and then we were up in the city at OU Medical Center, so it just happened really quickly. But we went straight from that hospital to the other hospital, and then I was there pretty much the whole time. So
So you were there whenever, the doctor came out and said that Trevor could potentially be a vegetable and, get the whole
yes,
nursing home ready and all that.
yes.
Uh, how did how did you feel when he said that? Did your mind started rolling? Did that you started thinking like, I don't think I can live with this? Like I've seen cases like this.
Yeah. um I don't know really, like, even to think back to it, I don't even know how I processed some of it, because it just didn't seem very real. It was such an awkward situation with his family and everything like that. So I think it was really hard for me to process a lot of what was going on during that time. And so I don't know. I don't even know. I know that all of the statistics and everything that they said, and I know um, there was a whole bunch of people in the hospital, and you could see like the people in the rooms beside him. And there was a young man that had had an accident, pretty severe, like Trevor's was. But you could just tell a difference in his body and in the way that he looked and everything like that. And his outcome was that he was a vegetable and in a nursing home, that he didn't have basically a life after that. Um, and so I don't think that I ever just fully processed that that's what was going to happen. I don't think that in my head I thought that that was a potential outcome, even though they said it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you didn't have time, like even though if it would have happened, you still would not have time to, process
Yeah.
on what you were going to do and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think from my perspective, I've seen too many movies where that happens, and the the girl is like, no, I don't think I wanna be with him. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to make love to him or
Yeah.
any of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
that's why that's why I was kind of
No, I think
asking
my
about that.
biggest fear in all of it was just I guess when you talk about watching the movies and the outcomes of those things, was that he wouldn't remember me because they told us that, that might be a thing, is that he'd have problems with his memory and different things. And so I think that was my worst fear, is that he just wouldn't remember
Yeah.
me.
All right. What were you saying, or were you done?
No, I think that was, I was just saying that I think my biggest fear was that he wouldn't remember me when he woke up. So
Yeah. That's a pretty, I don't know, hard. Um. See, this is what I'm talking about. I lose my words. This is why I created this podcast so I can better my communication. And see, I just lost my thought. How about that? So after he woken up, what happened? Did Was it like the movies? Did he call? Did he shouted, "Where's Amber?"
no, 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 no.
Nothing like
Uh,
that.
no, I think the first person that saw him awake, I think, was his uncle. Um, but the thing that, I mean, like, the only thing I don't know, I don't, like I said, it's all kind of a blur. The only thing I remember is him trying to talk on the phone and not being able to use his ear. That was because he can't
Yeah.
hear out of that ear. Um, but no, it wasn't any. I don't want to say it wasn't anything spectacular because it was awesome. Obviously, everybody was completely shocked that he was awake, but it wasn't like the scenes in the movie at all. No, I think maybe for his uncle being the first one in there, and I think that probably for him it felt more like that.
Yeah, I always remember every time I hang out with Trevor or anything like that. I'm like, "Am I in your right ear?"
He
Because
is.
if we're having conversations and I'm out here talking and he's not able to hear me, so I'm like, "Man, I'm in the wrong ear, I think."
But
So
again,
sometimes
he
I have to
still
switch
likes
to
to
the other one.
use that as a joke on people. He'll let people, especially like when we're in youth, he'll let people come up and totally ask him a full on question and be waiting for his response. And then he'll say, "Yeah, I didn't hear you."
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
It took me
And
a long time to remember which year it was. So
yeah, uh, when did you guys get married?
we got married in 2009,
2009. And accident happened in
2006.
2006.
Yeah.
So when did he propose?
In August of 2008. Yeah.
Not bad. What was there? Can you share your wedding story and what made it special?
Our wedding story. I don't know. The wedding days are pretty much a blur, and that's what we tell anybody anymore. You put all of this planning into this day to make it special, and it's really just stressful. And then it's over in like 5 minutes is what it feels like. But no. So on our wedding day, one thing is that I got a horse-drawn carriage. My mom and dad got that for me. So that was pretty cool. My mom is a big help in all of that kind of stuff, so she did a lot of the planning and things like that, so that helped. There was just family drama. I remember a lot of family drama, not on my side, on his side. So
Yeah.
that always, plays into it. But he's always really good to kind of redirect my thoughts back to, hey, it doesn't matter. This is where we're at. We're going to still have a great day. And still by the end of it, we're going to be married. So I think the fact that we ended up married, that's the special part of it all. So,
Yeah. I don't believe there was any drama in my wedding that I can remember. I'm a guy. I mean, I was just hanging out with the guys, and whatever
yeah,
happened, happened.
yeah, pretty much.
But I don't know. There's always drama on weddings.
Yeah,
Seems like.
and sometimes I think that like we can make the drama ourselves. I have a tendency to like think, well, they're probably thinking this, and maybe they weren't even thinking that, and so I kind of have the tendency to help create the drama, I guess. And so I think that we all have a tendency to do that because sometimes we overthink things. I overthink things and I overanalyze things a lot. So overall, I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like we were having fist fights and stuff like that, which I know happened at his parents' wedding. So that's good, I guess.
Oh my goodness. I, it kind of makes you want to tell the next person that you hear they're getting married. You want to tell them, "Are you getting married? Don't
Yeah,
have a wedding.
exactly.
Just
Just
have
elope.
just elope and
Yeah.
get married."
Yep. Because the end result is the same and you don't have to stress about it. So,
Okay, I lost my spot. Okay, what are some of the biggest challenges you face in your marriage, and how have you overcome them?
uh, some of the big, I don't know. I think marriage is challenging in general, but that's because I think that relationships are challenging, and marriage is more challenging because you're dealing with people on such, or your spouse on such a deeper level. I think one of the things that's been hard for us kind of in this season is parenting, just because we were both raised really, really different. And so our views on it don't always line up the same. But then, bringing it back to the Word of God, then we can always get back on the same page. And so that's always been good. But I think being parents is a hard thing anyway, and then adding that to your marriage, it's hard too. So, but I mean, overall, it's still really good, and it pushes us to be better people, and it grows us, and it pushes us closer together, which I think sometimes it can do the opposite and have the opposite effect on people, as it can push them apart. But I think that bringing it back to the Word, like I was talking about, I think that always helps us stay connected and stay together. We've had a lot of challenges through our marriage, but at this time, I would say probably parenting is one of the harder ones right now. So,
Yeah, parenting.
yeah.
Parenting is what we're struggling right now. My wife and I, our first, let's see, my goodness, the first 3.5 years, it was hell.
Mhm.
Like we've been through so much, and we were to the point where we were about to be in a divorce because we were not agreeing on certain things, or
Mhm.
even the smallest little things.
Yeah.
Like, my goodness, if I would have, let's say, us men have a habit of doing this, leaving the laundry like right beside the basket and not
Right.
in the basket. That thing could create a bunch of conflict,
Yeah.
and it could create like a big bomb that she's been holding inside, or
Yeah.
me holding inside. But it was a mess.
I think our
But
first 5 years were pretty rough, but again, I think it's working out the selfishness in you, and you learning to not be as selfish about things. And like for me, like the dirty laundry thing probably still drives me crazy, but instead of
yeah,
like taking it out on him, then just being like, okay, well, I can pick it up, it's not that big of a deal. So instead of turning it to he's doing wrong, what can I do to help this situation, it's always turning it back to yourself. It's really hard to do that. It's a process that God's really been walking me through lately is not
Mhm.
being selfish. So instead of looking at everybody else and how they're doing it wrong, how can I change the situation, or why does it bother me so bad? So why am I being selfish in the situation? So I think marriage has a tendency to really help you become less selfish because it's not just about you.
I know. Yeah, and that's one of the issues. One of the issues my wife and I are having right now is she's going through school, which is her last semester. I cannot wait. She's pregnant and she's working, and I'm like, oh my word, I need your attention. I need something, or I'm getting
Yeah,
frustrated. And
yeah,
same goes for her. Like she needs my attention and
yeah,
all that. I mean, I work long hours, so it's kind of rough,
yeah,
to come home and divide that time. But I agree with you. Right now, um, the parenting is what's really difficult in our part. Now, I mean, I feel like we overcome those obstacles
right,
in the past with, trying to figure out who we are. And I
right.
think we get accustomed to living with that person
Yeah, for sure.
that eventually it gets better.
Yeah,
I mean, I, I know some, newlyweds out there, they get married and once they have their first argument, they just want to give up and,
right.
throw their marriage in the trash. And I don't know. I feel like, they need to just give it some time, I guess.
Yeah.
Somebody told me, I think it was my mother-in-law, said that your first 5 years is gonna be hard. After that, it's gonna be easy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, I agree with that. The first 5 years were probably definitely the hardest, and then after that, it definitely has. Not that we don't have arguments or don't still have fights and don't still go through things. It's just it's easier to deal with together. And then you know that that person's there for you. They're not against you necessarily, and you may not agree, but they're not there to hurt you. It's not their intentions to just
Yeah,
completely be against you.
definitely. There's always gonna be arguments, but
Yeah,
when we have arguments, for your husband and my wife, like we're gonna need to be mature about it and not immature about it, because
yeah,
that's how we were in the beginning.
yeah.
We were really
Oh
immature
yeah,
about our arguments, and now we're just like, okay,
yeah,
I let it slide. I'm a person that doesn't like conflict, so I'm just
yeah.
either sit there and take it or laugh, which kind of takes my wife off.
I could see that being an issue.
Yeah, was I loud there a minute ago? Because you were kind of holding your headphone.
Oh no, I was fixing it. You're fine. I was fixing my ear. I have earrings on, so the headphones bother in my ear. It's like stabbing me.
Yeah. Alrighty, and I think you already answered this question, some of it, but I'm gonna ask it again. And this is where you need to be wise, for all
Oh,
those newlyweds that are listening.
right. Okay.
Um, okay, can you share any advice for maintaining a healthy and a long-lasting marriage?
Okay. So I think very first and foremost is to have God at the center of your relationship. I think that's very, very important. Because without that, you're going to be at each other's throats all the time. But then I think I did kind of touch on it a little bit. Is learning to not be selfish and to put the other person before you, which is actually really, really complicated, especially in the beginning, like you were talking about how we are immature. And
Yeah,
usually in the very beginning of your marriage, it's working out that immaturity for sure. And so just learning to not be selfish. And I think we're selfish in so many different ways that that's a very long process, but learning to prefer them and even sometimes the way that they like things over the way that you like things, because then that shows them love in on their level, and then it changes your heart too towards some things. So I mean, that's kind of where I would start. There's so much more though, like uh, there's so much advice out there for marriage and having a long lasting marriage. But I think first and foremost is putting God first. And then secondly, always putting your spouse before yourself. which is really, really hard.
Amber, I think that's all I got.
Alrighty, sir.
My goodness, that was easy. I'm gonna try to combine yours and Trevor's. Well, do something separately. It's gonna be like a part 1 and a part 2 kind of deal.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Yep, that's pretty much about it.
All right, that sounds good.
Well, Amber, thank you very much for coming to my show and talking. It was real nice.
No problem.
To have you
Thanks
on my
for
show.
having me.
Yeah, you guys take care.
You too.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.